questions you have as we move forward through this very strange time. We've gathered some questions, some very good questions from many of the student leaders that we've had contact with. And I think Tiffany will be helping us to assign those to different people to respond to some of them. But please, if your question doesn't get answered, do put it in the chat, and we'll see if we can get to that. If we can't get to it, we will be responding to all these questions and posting them at our website afterwards. So don't worry, you will get an answer. We will engage you on this. So, with that, I'll give it back to Tiffany, and she can manage how we go here.
Apologies. You know me, always keeping it super casual. So the first question that we have, I didn't actually have anybody assigned to answer this, but I think that we do know what's happening. So the first question that we have is about our graduation ceremony, what will be offered and when, how we will give students the opportunity for individual recognition of their achievement, and just, you know, generally students feeling disappointed that they won't get the opportunity to walk down the hill. So I do kind of know some of that information. I would ask staff members, is there somebody who's well-versed enough that you want to go over that? Otherwise, I can also talk about it. Okay, looks like me.
I'll take it, Tiffany.
Yes.
Like, okay. Yeah, so there was an announcement put out just, I think, earlier this week regarding arrangements on the actual commencement ceremony. They will have an online ceremony that will be broadcast on the day of commencement, that Sunday afternoon. I don't have the details at my fingertips here, but you can probably get that at the Provost website or the Registrar website. It will be a pre-recorded virtual ceremony. There won't be a walk down the hill. There won't be a any kind of, you know, opportunity for you to have your view on there right now. But degrees will be conferred, and it will be your graduation. Now, the International Affairs Office is holding a regular recognition ceremony for international graduates, and that will be, again, it's kind of a pre-recorded thing. And if you're graduating, you should have received an email from Whitney Denning in the KUIA International Affairs Office, asking you to make a little recording announcing your name and your degree and things like that. And we're going to put those all together along with all the speakers and all the award winners, and have that available for you on Friday afternoon. What date is that? 15th? As we had planned, as the regular date. So what will happen is you'll get directions to get to a website, which will present a program of the ceremony, and you'll be able to click on the different pieces to hear the different speakers and see the different events that happen through there. The university is planning to have an actual walk down the hill ceremony, but that will not happen until probably late summer, early fall, once it is deemed safe by all the authorities to have that many people gather in one place and be able to participate in that. So I do realize that for international students, that's maybe a bigger disappointment than it is for students who are have an easier time of getting back to campus at that time. You may be halfway around the world. You may be off in another state far across the country doing your OPT, hopefully. Um, but that sadly, that is one of the casualties of this pandemic. It's the best way that we can do it, and we will be working at doing that. But there will be a ceremony on Sunday of graduation. It will be a virtual ceremony, and degrees will be conferred at that time. The ceremony that we're going to do, the recognition ceremony, will be on our website, and so your families could tune in and watch that at any time, not necessarily on Friday afternoon, but whenever they get the chance to do it, and to see you and see your classmates in that process.
Okay, I'm gonna try this. Can everyone hear me? If I can see your picture, just nod. We have a question, yay! We have a question from Bander that actually is also our second question about whether the fall semester will be online or will be in person. I would probably ask Chuck once again to answer that question. We have had a little bit of direction from the provost on that.
Yeah. The best that we know right now is that the fall semester will be both online and in person. Efforts are being made to put as many classes in person as possible. So if you're watching this right now, you're a continuing student. If you're here in Lawrence, hopefully most of your classes will be able to be attended in person. There will be an online component because the university, and I really appreciate this about the leadership of our university, understanding that many international students left the country when they had the opportunity to, and may not be able to get back for the fall semester, but do want to continue their degree programs. And we have students coming in as new students this fall who, again, may not be able to get here in time for classes to start, just because visa issuance has been shut down and is slowly coming back online, and flights are hard to get at a particular time. So there will be online classes able to accommodate those who can't make it to campus, and online classes that could augment on-campus enrollment if those classes are not in person, although I think almost all classes will be taught in person that could be. Valerie may have something more to say on AEC in that regard.
Hi, all. So yeah, the AEC, we will be on ground if the university is on ground, but we will also be online because we know that a lot of students want to start or are continuing and have gone home. And again, like Chuck said, are having some difficulties coming back. So if we are able to be on ground, we will have on ground classes. But if you cannot come back or will not be here, we will also have online classes. So choice is yours. But you know that for English learning, it is much better to be on ground, but we can get you ready and started and help out your progress online for sure. There will also be the conversation groups that will continue online. And again, if we're on ground, we will have them on ground as well. And there will also be some tutoring in the fall that we will do online as well as on ground. And also office hours for faculty will be both online and on ground. So we're ready for whatever happens, and we'll be ready to offer classes for whatever you need. Tiffany, Chuck?
Well, I want to add a couple of things about immigration. I definitely think enrollment may be possible online from what I'm hearing, it may not be all classes. So I don't think students can assume that they can get a full course through online offerings. I think there's going to be some limited choices, is what I'm assuming. And also, you might be able to continue your education online, but you might not be able to maintain your immigration status. So we were given some grace from the government to allow students to enroll online for the spring and for the summer, but they have not given us that for the fall. Actually, they have said if KU resumes classes in person and you do not return for the fall, even if you enroll full-time online, that we cannot continue your I-20. So you can still make progress on your degree, and that's great. But we might have to end your I-20, and then you might have to get a new I-20 when you are ready to come back. And that would include repaying the SEVIS fee, which is $350 to the US government. And yeah, I think that's all.
All right, thank you. Let's keep moving here. We did have several questions about credit, no credit classes for students, and I believe Kayla was going to answer that question and chat about that.
Yeah, sure. And as I'm pulling up some information, I'm also going to post in the chat box a link to where you can find more information about credit, no credit, in case you have some additional questions. But just so students know, KU has extended the credit, no credit option for spring 2020. So what this means is that students will be able to request credit, no credit grade options until December 18th of 2020. So students will actually be able to see the grades that they receive for the spring before they elect credit, no credit, or you can also have the option of rescinding a credit, no credit if you've already made that election. There are some important things that students should consider prior to making that election. Credit, no credit can affect a student's financial aid or scholarship, acceptance into professional schools or advanced degrees. So if you're looking at moving on to graduate schools, it might be pretty important to check with the school or the program you're planning to apply to and verify if they will accept credit, no credit for a semester, because it'll show that way on the transcript. I would suggest that students talk with their academic advisor or their departments if they're a graduate student prior to making that election, just so that you go over all the options and make sure you have all of the information before making that election. And again, I'll post the website where you can go and get a little bit more information about the policy for the spring and KU's credit, no credit policy overall into the chat box so that everyone will have that.
All right, thank you, Kayla. We do have a question from Eiler here about the campus fees during summer 2020 if you're not on campus. I do not know the answer to that one. Does anybody know what our campus fee will be for this summer if you're not living on campus? Okay, Eiler, I'm gonna write that down. Oh, Eiler says it's $200. I'm gonna actually make a note of that because if you are asking, other students will be asking. Fees for...
This is Lynn, and I can confirm the ISS fee will be charged.
For the summer?
Summer.
Okay. Okay, great. All right. Okay, so let's keep moving here, and that's great.
Oh, wait a minute.
Oh.
I just thought also, just for clarification, if F1 students enroll for the summer, insurance will still automatically be charged.
Okay. Regardless of whether they're on campus, I assume. I'll assume yes. Okay. Okay, so we can keep moving here. If you have questions at any time, please feel free to type them into the chat box. The next question is about options for students extending their stay after they've completed their degree. So I think we have both Mike Edgar and Yuki Watanabe that we're going to talk about that.
Yeah, thanks, Tiffany. And we actually have this information on the FAQ segment on our webpage too, so you don't necessarily need to write it down while we're talking about it. But automatically F1 students, and we're just particularly talking about F1 students right now, have a 60-day grace period anyway to remain in the country to prepare for the purpose of preparing to leave the U.S. So you would automatically have that without having to do anything else, assuming you're done with the program. Other options beyond that would be to, you could apply for post-completion optional practical training, and that's something that you would be eligible to do anyway. You should do that, you have to do that within no later than the end of your 60-day grace period, because the application has to be received and receipted by USCIS by that time. You'd want to weigh on that though, because once you are authorized for the OPT, then you can only accumulate 90 days of unemployment. And the prospects of finding a job right now would be somewhat limited with over 30 million people unemployed. It's going to be a little bit challenging. Although you could do a volunteer work, a volunteer position. If you were able to find something, it would have to be for at least 20 hours a week, as it would be if it were a paid position. And it does have to be related to your field of study, but that is an option you could do. You could also apply for and be admitted into a new academic program, and the program would have to begin within 5 months of the end of your current program. If you're transferring to another school, we would need to look at transferring your CVIS record there, but you would have to be admitted into that program and take action on that before the end of your grace period. And then another option would be applying for a change of status to something like B2, which would be a tourist. That would be the most likely one, although individuals could have another status type that they would be eligible for, and we just have to look at a case-by-case basis on that. Those change of status applications can take up to 6 or 8 months to process, but you would be, as long as you get it timely filed before the end of your grace period, you would be allowed to stay in the country while it was being processed until you received a notice of action that it was either approved or denied. So there has been some misunderstanding of information that is on the USCIS webpage, and I've looked at it. It does seem kind of confusing, and it alludes to that you could file a form called a 539 for an extension of stay. That is what one use for that form, but F1 students are not eligible for an extension of stay using that form. So those are the 4 options that we've identified. Yuki, anything else you'd like to add to that?
Sure, kind of along the lines of the transfer category, we also have some students who choose to continue their education here at KU. So if you are finishing this spring or in the summer and you wish to continue on, you could be admitted to another degree. Usually it's at a higher level, but you could be admitted to another degree here at KU, and in which case you would accept the admission after you are admitted, and that information comes to our office, and I will actually be in touch with you about getting you your new document to continue on and continue your F1 status, so that you can begin another degree in the fall. So that also falls within the 5-month category. So if you're in the spring, summer, you do have to begin your new degree in the fall, unless you are going on OPT, stepping into that, and then after that, thinking about coming back to KU for another degree. So that's also another possibility.
So along with that, too, one consideration, if you are looking at that option, is that you would have to be able to show financial support for that first year of the new program in order for the I-20 to be issued to you. Okay, I think that's it, Tiffany.
All right. Okay, thank you. Just a quick reminder, if you've just joined us, you are able to submit questions using the chat function, and we would request that you use the chat function rather than speaking your questions, I guess. We're going to keep moving. Our next questions are in regards to on-campus housing issues and concerns. There's kind of three parts there. The first part is how long students can stay in on-campus housing. What happens if they are graduating this May, if they have the ability to stay over the summer? And finally, if they are not staying in on-campus housing for fall, can they stay during the summer and then move into their apartment or house? I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I saw Jackie McKenna here from...
Hi, this is Jackie McKenna with KU Student Housing. Tiffany, you cut up just a little bit, so I think I caught all three questions, but if I miss anything, just pop it in the chat box. So the first question is, how long can students stay living on campus? We do have housing available for the summer for students. Typically, you would need to be enrolled during the summer in order to live on campus. This summer, we're waiving that. As long as a student has been enrolled in the spring of 2020 or will be enrolled in fall of 2020, you are eligible to live with us on campus. And currently right now we have both options in our on-campus apartments with Jayhawker Towers and Stouffer Place. And then we also have a residence hall option available in Ellsworth Hall. Our housing is continuous. So if you're currently living with us and you would like to live with us this summer, we have continuous housing. So we will be able to take care of you continuously. If you're graduating and you're looking for housing for the summer or as long as you're here, we will have housing available depending on where you might currently be living. If you're living with us, you may need to relocate as we are consolidating where our housing options are over the summer, but we're happy to work with you to determine what your needs are. And then the last question, you may need to restate for me, but it was how long can they stay over the summer if they're moving into somewhere else for the fall? And yes, you can live with us. We do have our housing contract available through the KU portal. You can sign your housing contract. Our summer contract is available from May through July, and it'll actually run through July 27th. And then for students that are continuing to live with us in the fall, we will provide housing from July 27th until the fall term begins. We are charging essentially by the night. So our summer contract is flexible. So if you're not needing it for the entirety of the summer, let's say you're able to travel home sooner than the end of July, or your lease off campus begins before then, we will just charge you for the dates that you live with us. So it'll be a per day rate. So the biggest thing is once you sign your contract, we'll need to know the day you plan to arrive and then your final date living with us. But we do have options for students who are moving elsewhere in the fall. We can take care of you. And then also students that are graduating or any of you that just need housing over the summer.
Okay, thank you. Muted myself. Okay. Our next question regards concerns for personal safety or harassment in public, either on campus or off. Some students have expressed apprehension about even being out and about on campus. Some of our Asian students have felt some apprehension about even walking over to Mrs. E's to get their meals. And we also want to talk a little bit about what the reporting process looks like if you do experience an act of discrimination or harassment. So I'll likely turn that over to Chuck.
Okay, thanks. And I'll bring Kayla in here too as we talk about the reporting process. If you are experiencing any kinds of harassment, or if you witness any kind of harassment happening to others, we do ask that you would report that. You can certainly contact the ISS office and let us know those kinds of details if you'd like. Although the real reporting and follow-up is going to happen through the IOA office. OIA. What is it?
IOA.
IOA, thank you. Which is the office that is tasked with receiving those kinds of reports and following up with that and investigating that and following that through to a conclusion. We have not received in ISS any official reports that I know of that this has been happening. That doesn't mean that you're not feeling some sense of apprehension, and I'd like to just encourage you to reach out if you're having those kinds of feelings or thoughts. You haven't been harassed, nobody's yelled at you, but you just feel a little weary about going outside and showing your face. Those are kind of some typical things that a lot of people could be feeling during this very strange time, as we are being told to stay indoors and stay away from others and do that. Some things happen to us mentally and emotionally. And I would encourage you to reach out to friends, reach out to CAPS, which is still open on campus. You can call in and talk with someone. You could reach out to the ISS and we'll try to, our phones are still happening from 8 to 5, and we'll try to connect you with someone who can connect you with resources on that. I'm going to stop there and let Kayla pick up on any pieces that she might have to add.
Yeah, sure. And I will, again, in the chat box, I'll share the website link to IOA. And just so everyone knows, they are still working, even though they're working remotely. And you can contact them with issues either by phone, by email, or by submitting a file a complaint option online. And also just so students know, and everyone knows that in this new kind of virtual world that we are all living in and going to school in and working in, harassment and discrimination can take place in an online classroom, in Zoom meetings, and in other kind of virtual platforms. So if you're feeling any of those issues through an online presence, those are also things that you want to bring to someone's attention, whether it's to ISS or directly working with IOA. If you are no longer in Lawrence, or maybe in another part of the U.S., in Kansas or Missouri or elsewhere, IOA can still be contacted if you need some guidance on filing some sort of a criminal complaint. They are still there as a resource to assist you in that way. So I'll go ahead and just post their information. I'm happy to talk with any students offline who have some more questions that they may want to ask, and I'll go ahead and also just type my email in. But just echoing what Chuck and Tiffany had said, we do want you to feel safe. There are resources to help, and you only need to ask if you need some assistance.
And if I'll add too that if you are an Applied English Center student or you have friends who are at the Applied English Center, we have our advisors and that will help you. Rebecca is on the line here, who is kind of in charge of our advising program. So, you know, if you're not used to contacting International Student Services or other things, you can still contact us at the AEC. We are online. We're ready to talk to you and help you find any help and support that you need.
Okay, so at this time, if you do have further questions, please type them into the chat. We have covered the questions that we have been receiving from students most frequently, but I just want to open it up. If you've got questions, please go ahead now and type them into the chat box. And that goes for other KU staff members who are here as well. You're also welcome to ask questions.
Tiffany, I'll jump in just as people are thinking about some questions. Just some questions that I've received from students recently having to do with some availability of resources. I know that some students who maybe have lost some financing or income for a variety of reasons are looking for food resources. And so I want to let you know that on the ISS website, under support services, we've updated with some information on how you can contact local food banks and food resources that are available, whether it's through Just Foods or a couple of other options in Lawrence, including the Westwood House or Sunrise Community Shelves that all have some food services available and have shifted their practices a bit to accommodate for the current COVID-19 situation. So again, I'll put in the chat box a link to the support services page where you can view those food resources, as well as some other resources that are newly available to help students deal with the kind of the current climate and things that are going on.
Okay.
Let me just add something there too, Tiffany, another piece following up on Kayla's announcement. You know, we have had a number of students contact us letting us know that financially things have changed radically. Some of you maybe weren't planning to be here for the summer, but you are, and you weren't planning for living expenses this summer, but you can't leave right now. Or you've lost a job because of COVID-19 and you don't have the same income that you thought you would have, or you're having trouble getting funding from home because those linkages have been kind of shut down, or your family has suffered some economic problems because of COVID-19. At this time, we're trying to consolidate all of these kinds of requests and letting us know that you're in need of some funding under one heading, and that is under the emergency grant program that KU is running. And you can get there by going to help.ku.edu, go to the button for emergency grants and fill out the application there. Funding has been made available specifically for international students who are not, don't have access to other kinds of federal funding that has come. We are constantly working at where we can gather funding to put toward this kind of a opportunity. should we run out of funding, we would still like to know what your situation is so that we can follow up with you and maybe try to advocate for different kinds of resources that might be available to you, including some of the things that Kayla mentioned on food resources that are available in the community of Lawrence. So if you're having that financial issue, please go to help.ku.edu, and that will get to us. And that's one place where we can just funnel all the requests in one place, and with a common application, we can sort through those and follow up with you on what your specifics are.
Okay, thank you. Immigration advisors, we do have a question for you about whether USCIS is processing work permits for J1 dependents normally.
My understanding is they are. The service centers are not affected by the closure. It's just the public facing offices, like the district offices that do interviews for green cards, that are closed and not opening till June 4th. But the service centers who do all the EADs and work permits should still be open and should still be processing applications.
The second part of that question is, would it be wise to file a renewal ahead of time?
Applications for a 765 process could take 2 to 3 months or longer. So you'd want to just take that into account if you wanted the employment to be seamless.
Yeah, I would always advise to apply in advance, and I would think things are slower because I assume USCIS is also working remotely from home. So I would apply as soon as possible.
Not being an immigration advisor myself, that sounds like a great answer. Anyway, yeah, so we do still have some time. If you'd like to type anything into the chat, you are welcome to do so if you have questions. You don't have to send the chat questions to everyone. You can send them directly to me. That's fine. I will pass those on anonymously. I would like to say that we do have several ways that you can connect with not just ISS, but also with the International Affairs Division. And if you're an AEC student or an AAP student, at this point in time, our social media has been very active. And looks like I'm gonna be cutting out. Anyway, we are on Facebook and we are on Instagram every single day, so I would invite you to join us there. It's not only social, we also do try to post any important announcements that you need to know about. We try to get those posted after you have received them through your KU email. We do have a question about whether students will be able to fly into the United States in August. Chuck, would you like to take that one?
Sure.
I can help too.
Yeah, thanks. We don't know. We don't know what August will bring. August obviously may look very different from what we have today. We are hopeful for that, but we are expecting that probably it would depend upon where you're flying from, and that flights could be very limited at that time. You want to take it from there, Lynn?
No, I think those are good points. And I was just checking the CDC website a couple of days ago, and nationals are still prohibited from entering from China, Iran, the Schengen area, the United Kingdom, and Ireland. And like Chuck said, that could change rapidly. So you have to do your due diligence. Also, there's for the most part, the border with Canada has been closed down, but there are some exceptions for studying and working. So do your due diligence. And we're also worried about airlines not having flights available. And I'm sure many of you have also heard that the U.S. embassies are currently closed and not well, at least they're not accepting normal routine visa applications. So if you have an expired visa and you would have to be getting a new visa before you return, you would have to take that into consideration, because we don't know when they're going to be opening back up and having normal services again. So there's a lot of things to really think twice about if you're considering traveling. It might not be so easy to get back.
One other thing to consider too is that, again, depending on where you're traveling from, it's very likely there would be a 2-week self-quarantine period once you do arrive back in the country.
Okay, let's see what we've got here. We have a question here about which departments at the university may have scholarships available for graduate students, since we may not have the usual number of GTA positions open. Yeah, would there be a scholarship that would cover your tuition and also have a salary? Does somebody know? Has anyone heard anything about that for graduate students?
I can attempt to give some information, but if anyone who has more, please feel free to jump in. I don't know that there's something that blanketly applies to all departments. Probably the individual would need to connect with whatever department they're admitted in and see what the financial situation is there, what scholarships they may be able to offer. That's just my suggestion. Again, if someone else has more information, they can jump in, but I would suggest connecting directly with the department that you've been admitted to.
There's also, I'm sorry, you're going to hear my 2-year-old in the background. There are also sometimes scholarship opportunities posted on the KU Academic Works website. Again, this is not going to be something that would cover, something that a GTA or GRA would provide, but it would probably be a smaller amount. I can post a link to that website though too, here in the chat, and it would be maybe somewhere to start as well.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right. Oh, thank you, Celeste, for that link. Okay. Once again, if you have any questions or if you're just joining us, you are able to type questions into the chat. Sorry, I'm following the chat. Okay, we have a question for immigration advisors. If a student is able to get freelance work, since campus is closed and they're not able to work on campus, would that endanger their legal status?
I mean, that just seems like a loaded question. I would need a lot more specifics about it. Like what type of work, who's it for? My gut says probably not, unless it's like something that could be considered on-campus work, like you're tutoring other students, then perhaps. But generally speaking, freelancing is not allowed unless it's physically on campus. I mean, feel free to, if you have specifics, you could feel free to contact us one individually and we could look at it, but probably not.
All right, thank you, Lynn. So what about, yeah, translations for a foreign company, for example, freelancing as a translator?
I would say no. In general, if you're doing the work in the US, you should have a work authorization for it.
Okay.
So no.
Okay. Okay. All right, other questions that folks would like to submit in the chat? And I also want to open it up. We do have quite a few units represented here. So, you know, if you're from another KU unit, but you have a question for somebody out of KUIA, that would be fine. Okay, so we do have a question. I'm sorry, I know my internet is cutting off. If you work for a foreign company, can you, from the US, work for a foreign company if you are here on F1 status?
No.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay. Okay. All right, and this question is really open to everybody. What are some activities that are helping you to stay sane right now? Any tips for getting by? I can share, I'll open it up, some of the things that I'm doing that are nothing extraordinary, but are really helping to keep my mind in the right place. Gardening, for me, is big. I think this is going to sound a little out there, but then again, I'm a little out there, right? As creatures of the earth, I think we are meant to connect with the earth. And so for me, getting my hands into the dirt feels really good. And just talking to my plants feels really good. And seeing them grow and seeing them thrive and helping them to grow makes me feel really good. So I've been doing a ton of gardening, especially when we've had great weather. Baths are another thing that I normally really like to take baths. I can tell you that during this crisis, there have been days where I'm taking 2 baths a day, which might tell you a little something about my mental state, but I'm going ahead and filling up the bathtub. And again, water is something that as human beings, water is something that is not only physically cleansing, but is mentally cleansing as well. So I would encourage you to do those things. I'm taking a lot of walks, even just very short walks around the block during the day, just getting out there and moving my body. So yeah, what are some other things people are doing?
So if I have friends that are all over this nation and in several other nations around the world. And what we do is set a time that works for everybody's, time zone and get together and we play online games and share. Somebody will share their screen so that we can all see the games and then log in with our phones. There's one, just in case anybody, wants to, called jackbox.tv. And you can go online and download some of the games and then be able to play them. But the funnest part is not the games themselves, those are fun, but being able to see your friends and talk and play the games at the same time. So that's one way to have a reason to connect with people. Is tonight at 6:30, I have game night with friends on the East Coast and friends on the West Coast at the same time.
Absolutely. Last weekend, I had the opportunity to get together with some folks that I hadn't seen in 5 years. We were literally spread out all over the world. So I organized it with a friend of mine who lives in Burkina Faso. And so we chose 2:30 p.m. Burkina Faso time, which was 7:30 a.m. in California. And I believe it was 10:30 p.m. in by the time we were getting to China and Indonesia. But we were able to spend an hour together, which was really amazing. So what else? How are folks spending their time?
I've been doing a lot of yoga and meditation to kind of help mental state and both and physical activity. A lot of different apps are offering free programs for specifically for students. So if you log on to the app with your KU email address, you can get free services. One of the ones that I've been using is called Down Dog. It has free yoga, free bar, and I believe some meditation. Do Yoga With Me is another great site that offers some free videos. So just some of those things to kind of keep the body moving and also keep the head in a right space has been something that I've enjoyed. I've also enjoyed some of the cultural events. Kansas City Ballet, New York Ballet, the Met Opera out of New York have all posted performances or sections of performances online. If you've never had an opportunity to go to some of those places, here's your chance to watch them virtually, and those have been kind of nice experiences as well.
Yes, and we have another suggestion through the chat about learning a second or third or fourth language for some of you using Rosetta Stone. I know that Rosetta Stone and Babbel are both offering discounts on their programs. So if there's a language out there that you would like to learn, maybe now is your chance to do that. Yeah. Well, we are just about at the end. I want to thank you all so much for joining us today. If you have further questions, please do not hesitate to, you can email them to iss@ku.edu, and we will direct them to the correct unit on campus. So even if it's not a question that is directly related to ISS, if you have a question, about another campus unit, we'll try to find the right person for you. So yeah, please reach out. Please be joining us on social media. We are having so much fun with our Instagram takeover. This week, Eiler is taking over the account, and it's really cool. Eiler is from Turkmenistan, but is staying in Seattle. So we're getting to see a lot of really cool pictures from Seattle, which looks a little bit cooler than Kansas. So yeah, please join us on social media. Thank you all so much for coming today. Yeah, TGIT, have a great weekend. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.